Now, let's talk about respiration, and our focus here is going to be upon our S2, okay? So before we begin, you tell me about S2 again. S2 is a diastolic event, is it not? Yes. And what happens during diastole? You have closure of the aortic followed by the pulmonic. We have A2P2, A2P2. Dot up, dot up, dot up. Let up is S1. Let's leave that alone. Let's focus on S2. Now, if you've understood everything that I've said up until now, when I talk to you about the splitting of your S2 physiologically, then this will make sense during inspiration. Now, work with me here. Ready? Deep breath. Diaphragm contracts, moves down. What happens to your venous return? Tell me. Increased. Good. So you've increased your venous return to the right side upon inspiration. Okay. Where is there more blood? Well, there are two doors. Okay. One's over there and one's over there. And you have 1,000 people running through that door, and you have 2 people running through that door. Which door is going to close first? Obviously the one with 2 people. Now, if you tell me 1,000 people, I can't help you. I really can't. So here we go. Inspiration is more amount of blood on the right side. Okay? That's your 1,000 people. That's going to take a long time for that door to close. What is that door with 1,000 people right now? That's your P2. So your second heart sound, your pulmonic valve closing upon inspiration is going to be much more delayed than your aortic. What do we call this? A physiologic split. Take a look at inspiration, please. You see that widening of A2P2? And isn't that widening the space between A2P2 look a lot longer in length than upon expiration? Upon expiration, what happens to diaphragm? Passively, diaphragm comes up, thoracic pressure increases, and so therefore your venous return is not as much on the right side, right? And so therefore what will happen to your distance between A2P2? It is decreased a little bit. Now, is this pathologic? No, it's called a physiologic split. This is occurring in you and me right now. You and me right now. When we inspire, expire, we have changes in the span and length of A2P2. I hope that's clear. At the physiologic split. Let's continue. Now we have something called a persistent, or more importantly, a widened split. Right off the back, I wish to tell you, do not confuse your widened split with the fixed split. Dr. Raj, it sounds like the same darn thing. Granted, perhaps. But medically and clinically, not at all. 2 distinct diagnoses that must be understood right off the back. Widened is not the same thing as fixed. So, what does widened mean? Well, let's say that your patient has something like a right bundle branch block. A right bundle branch block. What does a block mean to you? Well, the reason I ask you that is because I'm not stating the obvious. A block doesn't mean that no impulses are passing through. You've heard of AV block. You've heard of first degree, second degree AV block, have you not? And what happens in those blocks? Well, there's delayed conduction of the impulses, correct? So in right bundle branch block, you'll have a delayed conduction through the right bundle. Is that clear? When you have a delayed conduction through the right bundle, then what happens to your P2? It closes a little bit later, but it's not fixed. It's not fixed. I want you to take a look at normal, and you take a look at your second heart sound. Expiration, inspiration, expiration, inspiration. When do you have that widening? Only during inspiration. And that's called a physiologic split. That's what normal is, a physiologic split. I want you to compare that to the widened or the persistent. Not the same thing as fixed. Right bundle branch block. When should you have more widening? During inspiration. Take a look at inspiration here under persistent. Do you see that? Good. And do you have widening? Sure you do. But it's a lot wider than what it was with inspiration or normally. Take a look at expiration. Expiration, the widening is a little bit lessened, but it's still longer than what was found in normal. Is that clear? So you still have variation, kind of like a accordion, right? Back and forth, back and forth. So you still have that inspiration, expiration, widening and closing of the length and span, but this is called persistent. Our diagnoses and differentials include right bundle branch block and pulmonic stenosis. Why isn't left bundle branch block here? You see that? Why isn't LBBB here? Because the left bundle branch block would mean what? Close your eyes. It means I can't have proper conduction to the left bundle branch. So where's my depolarization passing through? Through the right bundle branch. So which valve is going to close first? Pulmonic, then your aortic. Is that clear? Has nothing to do with persistent split. That is called a paradoxical split, isn't it? So a left bundle branch block is going to give you a paradoxical split. It is that simple. A right bundle branch is going to give you something like your persistent or a widened split. Then we come to our fixed. Are we clear here? It's important that you pay attention to terminology. I want you to take a look at normal. We've gone through that plenty. Let's leave that alone. You know about the physiologic split. Now, let's take a look at ASD. With the atrial septal defect, this is my issue. It's the fact that all of the time, let's say that the most common genetically is ostium secundum, right? With an ostium secundum, say that the foramen valve still remains open, and you then create an atrial septal defect. What kind of shunt is that? A left to right shunt. So you're not going to have cyanosis, are you? No, because it's a left to right shunt. So you can still have oxygenation to the tissue. That's not going to be an issue. But now, with that blood, which is constantly moving, where are we moving from? Left atrium to right atrium, constantly. With the constant amount of blood going into the right atrium, tell me about the pulmonic valve. It is always going to be fixed. It is always going to be widened. I want you to take a look at expiration, inspiration, under fixed. Our prime and main differential will be atrial septal defect, in which there is not going to be any widening or physiologic split of A2P2. We call this fixed. Number one differential, atrial septal defect. We will go one step further because any board exam, clinically, what have you, will want you to know, will require you to know where on your chest you would hear the atrial septal defect murmur. Okay, but first it begins with your understanding of a fixed split. Now we have a paradoxical split. Now we can walk through this quickly. We have left bundle branch block. Take a look at normal, please. A2P2, expiration, inspiration. Take a look at paradoxical. What's paradoxical mean? Opposite. When's the last time you've heard of paradoxical, or where's another common theme of paradoxical come into play? How about a paradoxical embolus? Remember a DVT? A DVT will be a thrombus, and if it embolizes, you end up in a pulmonary embolism, right? That's not paradoxical. But if you have something like a septal defect, then you might have a DVT, which will then embolize to the opposite side, and you call that what? A paradoxical embolus. Here we have a paradoxical split. Is that clear? So what's happening? There's no proper depolarization of the left bundle branch. So where is my conduction passing through? The right bundle branch. First, so a P2, then A2. That is not normal. That's a paradoxical split. What's another one? With an aortic stenosis. With an aortic stenosis, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but it's a systolic murmur. The aortic valve doesn't want to open. And if it doesn't want to open, issue sec doesn't want to close. So therefore, you might have a paradoxical split. It's important that you understand the difference between, number one, physiologic split of S2, a widened split of S2. Differential, right bundle branch block. Number three, fixed split. Number one diagnosis, atrial septal defect. Are we good? Paradoxical split, simple.